good age range here. So with like experience and with wisdom and everything, we're just gonna take turns. But I want to know your guys' takes on relationships. Whether it's like, is it good for you? Is it not good for you? Is there a time for that? Is there a place for that? So we'll just go one at a time. You know what? We'll let the co-host start it off, nice and easy.
Okay, okay. All right, so I think there definitely is a time and place for relationships. I think the best point to have a relationship is when you can love yourself.
Ooh.
I feel like if you don't love yourself, you don't have the ability to really love others well. And so I think once you get in tune with your spirituality and in tune with yourself and just really understand your strengths and weaknesses, then you can go on and add another player to that.
Have you? Are you at that point to where you love yourself so you're able to give
I
love?
am now. I
Yeah.
am. Yeah. It's been a rough couple years, but I'm definitely blessed. I had a new job. I got some new friends this year,
There you go.
and so you know, I've definitely more things to worry about. Or let me rephrase. I've I've definitely have like more things to
Responsibilities.
yeah, responsibilities and and actions to really look over. But I always put others first in my life, and I think once I realized that I need to put God first, and then start to love myself, that's when all those all the pain and the struggles don't really seem that bad.
Nice. That's pretty good. What about you, Farron?
I can tell you, within the last about 4 months ago, I just discovered 38 years of self-loathing. So you want to talk about relationships? That is what I had to drill down in. And as he said, I had to first look at how I love myself. And when I realized what that felt like and my experience of it and what I was avoiding in relationships
Yeah.
and what it cost me, I was like, I don't want that life no more.
Really?
And the decision came from a 14-year-old junior high school kid who broke up with or the girl who broke up with me. At that moment, I made a decision that I'm not going to be vulnerable and I have to defend myself in relationships.
Yeah.
So you can imagine from age 14 until age 52, I lived like that as relationships. And so I sabotaged, like no woman had a chance.
Dang.
No woman had a chance because of what I was avoiding, being controlled and dominated, but also avoiding being disappointed, not just in her, but in myself first. So that's where that self-love comes from. When you when you are able to heal yourself completely, then you can have love for another person.
How does one heal themselves? Is it a lot of like talking to God? Is it a lot of like pacing back and forth, or how do you heal someone like
You know
yourself?
what? If we actually tell the truth to ourselves first, we already know what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
right? So
We're
the
just-
first
Yeah.
the first thing you got to do is you have to be willing to tell the truth to yourself first. If you're not, and then if you're not willing to do the work, because it's gonna take a lot of work. It took me from 2016 until 2022, and that was constant work, figuring out who I was being, figuring out my experiences, figuring out what it was costing me in those relationships
Yeah.
to myself first though. And then like I said, the last 4 months I got to my spirituality and it was like, okay, the Bible said, love my neighbor in the same measure that I love myself. And I was like, oh shoot, let me look and see how much do I love myself? Oh, well, guess what? I don't really love myself that much. In certain areas where it's comfortable, I do. When it's uncomfortable areas, I don't love myself. So then I went to see what are those things that makes me uncomfortable.
So what were you doing that qualified as you not loving yourself? Were you like hurting yourself like mentally or physically or
It was more
Not-
emotionally
emotionally?
and yeah, definitely. And I'm pretty sure it was impacting my physical because you talk about stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
You talk about nervousness when it comes to communicating with a woman. Like you have all that body sensation. So yeah, it was man, it was tough. But once I really I did the work and I discovered and I used the Holy Spirit. Like, so we don't go over spiritual, right? So I
Yeah.
use the Holy Spirit. I use the biblical principles. I use my personal development education. I use cognitive behavior education. I took I used my friend's Caldwell Williams education, the goaltenders. I took all four of those, and I gave myself with the Bible, the kingdom principles. I wanted access to my subconscious mind. My subconscious mind was like,
There we
we
go.
ain't even going there, bro. But I said, no,
Dang.
my spirit being, I want access to my subconscious mind to see what's in my heart, right?
Yeah.
And then I had to look at what door am I want to look at. And then what I was dealing with in my personal development classes was hope, right? So the Bible talks about hope, faith, like that's all positive. Well, in my mind, hope, subconscious mind, I had hope for sure, but hope like pie in the sky, like, oh, one day I'll
Yeah.
find her, right?
Yeah.
But then also what was in there was hopelessness.
Mm.
And then when I got down to what was next to hopelessness, despair,
Right.
right? And then I got to what was the despair from? Oh, avoiding being controlled and dominated by a woman. I don't want to tell you where I'm going. I'm a grown man. I'll leave I'll go where I want to go. Like I'm not checking in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That
Not on a
was kind of
leash.
my man. That was
Yeah.
kind of right. So
Yeah.
so that was kind of that's how I behaved.
Right.
And they would tell you that's how. Yeah, I didn't want to check in. And if I felt confident or whatever that was, oh, I'm going over here. I'm going to do this. But if I felt like that, that I don't want to tell nobody. I'm gonna do what I want to do. Then that doesn't work in relationships.
Yeah.
In some cases. So when I got to that point and saw that in my mind, like, oh shoot, that's what that is. And then I looked at what's my experience of myself. That's self-loathing. Because if you want a relationship but you don't want one, some people say you got 1 foot in, you got 1 foot out. I mean, we describe it very well, but you have to be able to look at the experience of it and how you feel. And that's that
Yeah.
emotional intelligence that we're talking about. Like, you got to have that. Because if you have that, then you can start to articulate the words. So I had to go to the dictionary and look for words that actually described how I felt, not just I'm just pissed off, I'm upset. No, like what word am I feeling like, and go find that definition. So when I want to talk about it, this is what I feel,
Yeah.
and articulate that. And it takes courage, it takes
Yeah.
confidence, it takes a way of being, but you got to be willing to do the work.
See, I like how you searched up the actual word on how you feel rather than keeping it like generalized.
A description, yeah,
Because if you
Yeah.
say like you're angry but you're not really angry,
exactly.
then it's like you're telling yourself you're angry. You're putting that in your. That's cool. I like that.
Because if you say I'm angry, everybody knows what that feels like.
Right? Like, oh, you're
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah, but you're not saying what that actually anger is or where it's coming from.
Right.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's deep.
It is.
I like that. All right, Solomon, you're up, buddy. What do you think about relationships, my guy?
Tough to follow.
No, you good.
Well, I wanted to piggyback on what Kyle had said.
Okay.
And just add in that you have to be okay with not being in a relationship sometimes.
Yeah.
Whether it's your first time dating or in and out of relationships, sometimes it's okay to take a step back and be alone for a bit. And whenever you're ready, and like you said, you love yourself, and then you can branch out and love others. And it's okay to just have friends for a while,
Yeah.
and just enjoy life, before you get tied down, or, live your dream, your goal. And, but to be able to and actually enjoy yourself, you need to be comfortable with being single for a long time even.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid that you're not going to find the one, and you don't have to rush out and meet, go on a bunch of dates. Don't force it, time will
Time will tell. Huh?
yeah, time will tell. And and as long as you have God with you, you're never really alone. But
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's crazy. I think there might be a slight problem with dating a bunch of people. And let me tell
Oh,
you
I
why.
know.
Let me tell you why. Because you're going to find someone and you'll be like, yo, I want a girl who can cook like Sarah, but I also want a girl who can clean like Brittany.
Yep.
And who can love me like
Yep.
so and so.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you're searching for the one that has all these characters, and you're just never gonna find it.
Doesn't exist.
No one's
Yeah,
perfect.
bro. So you're just gonna keep looking, and keep searching, and then you're gonna be like, you know, grass is always greener on the other side. It's because you don't water your own grass, bro. You know what I mean? And it's like with relationships, people are like, dude, I can't handle this chick because of this. So they go find someone else, and then, oh, dude, I can't handle her because of this. You know? And it's just like,
Yeah.
no matter what, dude, you're gonna be in a situation where life is all about work and progress.
Yep.
You know, I was telling someone the other day,
Compromise.
and this is kind of like outside of relationships, but at the same time, it's still in the same realm. But like, men are born to build. You know what I mean? To build relationships or build architects or anything. Like, if you do nothing for the day, you're gonna feel like crap. You're not gonna feel like successful. You know? But people who built a house, they're like, dang, look at this. You know? Who made, build up their career, like anything when it comes to progression and building, like that's what makes us feel alive, and like with relationships.
Can I add something before you go away
Go
from that
for it.
topic? And you talk about men. What I had to learn is, as men, we are the foundation of that family.
Yeah.
So that means you're the ground. Talking about building. If you can't build a house with a cracked foundation,
Right.
right? So when you say that, we have to have men understand that role that you play in that family is the foundation. And nobody goes home and says, "Oh, moo, I thank my foundation for holding up the house today." Like, we don't do that. You just walk right in your house and you admire what's inside the house. But if that foundation is cracked, I don't care how expensive your house is, what beautiful things you got in there. The foundation is cracked. That house is done, condemned. So if you think of yourself as the foundation, you're going to be the one that's going to be holding up that family, and you may not get credit for it.
Right. And so back on that, what makes the foundation in the relationship of the family as the man's duty?
That's my question to me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or to anyone, but you brought it
Yeah.
up. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
Well, so when I walked away from that was, we go from a boy to a young man, however you describe it for yourself, teenager, young man, young adult, to a man, to a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, father, grandfather. Those are all roles. Once you get into fatherhood and all that, that's a role.
Yeah.
So now you've got to go figure out, if you don't think that your father was the kind of father that you needed to have, then you've got to go figure out what kind of father you want to be. So now you're talking about going to get educated, because now you got to figure out, what is it to be a father? Because that's a role. It's not a person. It's a role that you have to play. So sometimes you got to go get educated in what that role looks like. And like I said, some people feel like their father wasn't a good role model. So then now where are you going to get it from? So I believe that you got to get educated and talk to people, talk to men, to find out what is it like for you being a father? What's your experiences? What are the trials? What are the tribulations? Would you change your mind? Would you wait a little bit longer? Like, you got to have those kind of talks. And then there's education classes you can take.
So let's kind of piggyback off that. My grandparents were born in Mexico on my mom's side. And my mom is 100%, and I'm 50%. But when I talked to my grandparents, I asked them when I was little, I was like, why do they have quinceañeras for women and not men? And my
He wants
grandpa,
one so bad.
huh?
I said you want a quinceañera so bad. He's like,
I was like
"Come
5 years
on."
old. I didn't know what it meant, but maybe I did. And my grandpa goes, "Mijo, you learn how to be a man throughout your life, and once you help build a foundation for the family, then the women can come in." And so that really stuck with me. And I also asked them, prior to them, passing away, they were both married for 59 years. And I was like, how have you guys managed to stay married for 59 years? And he goes, well, relationship is about putting all the chips in and being content with it and expecting your partner to do so as well. And if you're content with how much she's putting in and how much and she's content with how much you're putting in, then it doesn't matter how big the pot is.
Nope.
And so, yeah, that stuck with me. And so, yeah, they both got married at 18, and they died married.
Wow,
Wow.
that's pretty amazing, dude.
Yeah,
There's very few, out there. Like, when my parents they got divorced, and like when I was like 12 or 13.
yeah,
But like as a kid, like all my friends' parents were divorced.
yeah,
And I was like, like we're the lucky ones, bro. Like, sucks for you, dog. You know what I mean? And I really thought, like, not that it doesn't give me hope anymore, but it opened my eyes. Like, you got to be careful, like, who you with. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And like, all my relationships, bro, different. Every single one of them.
yeah. Mine too.
And I've learned lessons from every single one of them.
You have to.
And some people don't, bro. You know?
Otherwise, it's a cycle.
I've listened to you, my guy,
Insanity.
and if that's what you walked away from divorces, how did you phrase it? That relationships are what? You gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're living by that, you just define what it would look like. You're learning lessons from each relationship,
Yeah.
right? And that's unfortunately that may not work because you may be doing that for the next 25 years. So it's kind of a decision that we make like that. Like that's a decision. And how old were you when you made that decision?
Like last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah. So that's bro, mentally, subconsciously, that's a defining decision that you made in your 20s because now you put that filter on that relationships are what?
You got to be careful.
You got to be careful. So now imagine you put on I got to be careful relationships glasses on, and now that's how you're looking at women subconsciously.
And you know what? It's not even in that direction as a whole, but like as myself.
Yeah.
I got to be careful as myself because
Yeah.
there's things that I've done in relationships where it's like, dude, you know what I mean? Like,
That's that avoiding disappointment.
yeah.
You're avoiding something.
It's not, okay, but we're talking about weaknesses, bro. Look,
You got him.
I got him.
I know, like, here's the thing. Like, do you think that you should be with someone when when you haven't built your foundation yet? Or do you think you should build your foundation with someone you're with?
So honestly, today at 50, about to be 53 in a few weeks, I believe that as a man, you have to now articulate. You got to at least know what your vision is, your purpose, your passion, your gift. So when you meet that woman, you can, hey, this is who I am today. This is what I'm up to. This is what I'm about. This is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Do you see yourself hanging with me like that? And give that woman an opportunity to see, ask you some more questions. And then you'll be like, then you'll get to hear, you know what, maybe you're not the one for me because you're looking for too much. And I honestly, I just can't do that today. Or is that stuff negotiable?
Right.
Because if she agrees with, oh, you know what, I like what you do. I could be a part of that. I could do that. Then as a man, it's my view is now to say, so then what are you up to, young lady? What's your vision? What do you care about? Because maybe I could support you in what you care about. So now we're working together not
Yeah.
having two different visions. So again, you got to be honest. There's a lot of things before that, but I believe as men, we have, before you want that relationship with that woman, you've got to be able to know who you are, what you want for yourself, where you're going. So at least you can have those conversations. So as it grows, you guys can grow together, and she can remind you, you said you wanted to be this kind of person. Where's that at? Now you guys are negotiating and you're talking.
So you're
and it's
holding
not-
each other accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
see
you
that.
got to do that stuff before you start dating, before you have sex, before you have a child, because all that stuff complicates it.
Yep.
But we don't do that stuff first. We don't
No.
say, hey, this is who I am, what I'm up to. What are you up to? Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. You know what? I like that. I think we could work together in that. So now you have one vision. If you have two different visions, that's division, and that's divorce. Because you got two different things going on. That's why people say, oh, we on separate trains going in different directions. Like, that's what we describe it. But that's because maybe there was a point that we didn't talk about what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be and what you wanted. And now I'm off track.
Yeah.
And she's off track. And now we just like, well, we don't work no more. Like, when I looked at my life, bro, it hurt. That doesn't feel good. To discover that later. Right. After you've sabotaged relationships and you've had good women in your life that really wanted to be there, but I was like you, I was avoiding something, and it wasn't going to allow me to be. Even if I found the one, it wasn't going to be the one because I'm avoiding something.
Right.
So those kind of decisions that we make as young men out of those relationships, your subconscious mind has a snapshot of that whatever didn't work, and now that's another filter you're looking for to make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So you're always going to be right about the relationship. You're always going to be right because your mind is going to make sure you're right because you get to be safe and stay alive.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because you trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it out. And there's nothing to figure out.
I got a lot of explaining. Okay, here's a follow-up question. I think it's pretty interesting. Do you know who you are? Because you said you have to know yourself before you get with someone else.
Yes.
So if I asked you, like, Farron, who are you?
I can tell you. I have a phrase. Who I am is that others see their greatness through my self-expression, and that others find their peace through their language.
All right, one more time.
So who I am is that others see their greatness through my self-expression, and that others find their peace through their language.
I like that.
That's who I am.
That's deep.
And my talk shows, who I show up, all that is present. Now there's sometimes I get off track and I want to be right about conversations because I'm right, but then being right invalidates that person, right? So then there's no love present if I'm being right. So I have to catch myself sometimes, and then I'm not leaving that person better than they came when they met me.
Yeah.
So that's who I am as a human being as I show up. Is that you see your greatness through my self-expression. My self-expression is radio, is my basketball, is being a grandfather, like that, whatever I'm doing, that's when you walk away, you should be like, man, that dude is pretty cool. And I could be, and he encouraged me that I could do that.
Yeah.
I could be that kind of person. That's a different way to live, man.
That is.
But I didn't just have that. It took me 12 years to start that process.
Really?
Yeah.
And how'd you come up with that phrase?
Oh, in my personal development courses, and because we all live by a principle. Our life is ran by some principle.
Yeah.
Right? Your ideology, your philosophy, your theology. You got to get in touch with those. Where are your thoughts coming from? What's your beliefs? I challenged my beliefs at 40 years old. I had to go back and challenge everything that I learned from my environment, from church to relationships to my parents. But at 40, I'm like, this is not working. This is not working for me. So who do I want to be today at 40 years old? And again, you've got to be willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, it's conceptual. And it sounds good for you, but not for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And, sometimes some of the hardest things are not to do the things you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, putting in work is hard, right? But if you're addicted to something and you got to stop, like, that's even harder. But all you got to do is not do it. You know what I mean? Like, the world is such it's complex, but it's also simplistic. You know what you got to do, right? Because your conscience, authentic voice of God, is telling you, like, you should be doing this.
Yeah,
but then, again, you're going against that. You're fighting against yourself because you have temptations urges, cravings, you know,
Appetites. Like
appetites,
all
Yeah.
of that.
or
Mm-hmm.
you know, you want to. The grass is always greener on the other side, apparently, you know.
But you say that, and again, going back to the Bible, one of those fruits that you produce is self-control.
Yeah.
So you have to be self-control. You don't just do it.
Right.
Self-control is a principle. That's what I'm saying. We live by principles, and some of those principles are good ones, but they're corrupted by how our perception of those principles are. And especially if you understand brain science and your subconscious mind, it's gonna keep you safe. Because you got to survive that relationship. You got to survive that. So it's always gonna keep you safe.
Yeah.
Always. But it's destroying us spiritually because our spirit, we want to be free.
Right.
But your subconscious mind, like, you know what happened last time?
Yeah.
Remember, oh, she's acting like that last one. Remember that one? Oh yeah, we don't want that. Oh no.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's your subconscious mind. It's designed to keep you safe.
So I think I think you heard me ask this before on the air, but I like to bring it back up every once in a while because mine used to flip flop, but I'm pretty stapled on this. But would you rather be at war with the world and at peace with yourself, or at peace with the world and at war with yourself?
I'd rather be at peace with myself
Yep.
because everything else is perception, interpretation, and perspective.
This is why he's on the show, you guys. This is you already like. What do you like? Like, I know you like sports and stuff, but you know, digging to find yourself
Yeah.
for forever.
That's where I'm. That's the journey. I've discovered 11 decisions that I've made since the age of 2. 11, and each one of them shaped my perception of my parents and then of myself.
Yep.
11.
Do you have a book?
I'm working on them.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm making inspirational reads for each one. I'm making inspirational reads. So the first one is Life of a 5-Year-Old, which is the perception of my father. That's what I first discovered. But then when I went to work with my mom at the Life of an 8-Year-Old, I realized that relationship was broken at 2 years old. So now I got to write the life of a 2-year-old because of the transition that my mom had me at 19, and she got a job with the county, but she was dropping me off at my grandparents' house, going to work, picking me up, and my grandparents did a honorable thing. Leave him here. Just leave him with us. We'll take care of him, pick him up on the weekend, so you can, when you get your life together, pick him up. But what they didn't understand, which people don't understand, is that disconnection from my mother at 2 years old. I was in my mom's womb for 9 months, up to 2 years old, and now that connection is broken because now I'm living with my grandparents, and when my mom came to pick me up, I'm crying when she takes me to her apartment because I want to go home. I'm no longer at home with her. I'm at home with my grandparents.
Yeah.
So now our relationship is thwarted because I'm now been disconnected from my mom. So then that, and we would talk about that when I got older, but I didn't understand how deeply rooted that was because I love my mother, but there was something missing there, and I was more attached to my grandmother than I was to her.
Right. That makes sense. What do you think? What was your toughest year in life?
My toughest year in life was my transition out of the military.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that out of all the stuff that I dealt with up until age 40, 43, all that stuff came up because my identity, check it out, all the decisions that I made from 2 years old was no wonder why I joined the military.
Really?
Right?
Kind of just laid it up.
Right. It led perfect job. Right? And then when that was taken away with my medical retirement, my identity was in the camouflage. My identity was in my rank, Sergeant First Class. So then when they said, oh, you're done, then my life is over. I had no idea who Farron was.
Wow.
And so it was over. But that's what happens to military, it happens to athletes, professional athletes, it happens to police officers, it happens to firefighters, it happens to doctors.
Yeah, because like they dedicate their whole lives to that.
That's what I'm saying. So, and as men, we all have identity crises.
Yep.
Some people have it in sports. And if their football team loses, they're ruined for the whole week.
Yeah.
Right? Because their identity is in that sports,
Yeah.
in that team. So we all have an identity crisis
Yeah.
as men.
Do you think it's because we attached ourselves to something in the world? Is that why? Because if we didn't, then we'll probably be more wholesome in a sense, right?
Of course, yeah. That's why you have to have self-love. When I discovered my healing, I had to then figure out where was I going to get my healing from? What the world says about who I'm supposed to be, or what the Bible says.
Yeah.
So I went to the Bible because I'm like, this is all positive in here. So then I had to discover what was self-love, self-worth, self-esteem, self-affirmation, self-love. Like, you have to love yourself first.
Yep.
Before I could love my neighbor. So I had to figure out what I had self-esteem when I was comfortable.
Yeah.
But when I was uncomfortable, I didn't have self-esteem. So now I can live by self-esteem as a principle and practice when I'm uncomfortable. No, I got to have that self-esteem. Sometimes our parents kill off our self-esteem. Not purposely,
Right.
but because they don't know why we were born, so they're trying to guide you to get your life to turn out. But
a lot of the times they're just trying to protect us.
exactly.
Yeah.
But as the perception of a child, you don't understand that as a child.
You don't understand that, and then you hold resentment.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And therefore, how can you have a relationship with a woman when you have resentment that you don't even remember that you have with your parents?
Yep.
Who are the most important people in your life? The first two. Whether you got both parents or no parents or one parent, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's what society thinks. Oh, well, you only got one. You only got a mom. It doesn't matter if you got both parents in the house or one parent. There's going to be a break in communication with that child. That parent is going to disappoint that child. Not purposely.
Yeah.
But that parent is going to disappoint that child. You missed my game, Dad. The child walks away silently. He doesn't care about me.
Yep.
But the child doesn't know the dad had to be at work because the dad's mentality is I got to provide for my family. And that one game, I missed that one game. Come on, son. I've been to 50 games, but I missed that one. And that one could be the one where that child's like, yeah, Dad, my dad don't care.
See, in my perspective, I have zero problems with my dad, but he wasn't there like all the time. And I feel, as a man, you know, your dad's not gonna be there all the time, and there's like that manhood that you have to go through, but your mom, like, she's there all the time. So like they play those roles, you know, and like my dad was there when I needed him, like physically and all that good stuff, but he wasn't there like 24/7 to all my games or all my tournaments, you know.
Yeah.
And like that made me, I don't want to say it solidified me, but it made me tougher knowing like, hey, if he's not there, it's okay, you know, with anybody, because at the end of the day, you're with yourself, you know.
Well, at the same time, you know, you might be okay with some of these concepts, but you have to really ask yourself, what are you really okay and not okay with? And you have to sit down and ask yourself these things sometimes. How did my parents' divorces affect me? How did my dad getting sick at 4 years old affect me? How did, you know? And it's just sitting down and really tackling how much did it affect you mentally.
The best song for you to listen to is Cats in the Cradle.
Cats in the Cradle.
Because Cats in the Cradle, and the lyrics of that song, he realizes that he wasn't around at those points for his child. When the child went to college, the child came home. I just want the keys to the dad. He wants to spend time with the son. The dad, just give me the keys, Dad. I gotta go. When the son got older and had his own family, he retired and he wants to spend time with his son. He calls the son. The son says, "Oh, Dad, I can't see you. I got bills to pay. The child's sick. Nice talking to you. Gotta go," and hangs up the phone.
Yeah.
And he realizes, my son turned out just like me.
Cats in the cradle and the silver.
Tell son turned out just like me.
Cats in the cradle and the silver.
Tell him. Listen to that song, man. I learned that song. When I heard that song, it reminded me of me and my dad. Because he was there, but he wasn't there, in my perception.
And in the Bible, Peter says that the builder that, the stone that the builder refused is often the cornerstone. And so
I wonder what you hear. What you hearing over there?
I'm thinking like, I'm thinking about what Kyle had said, where you have to actually look and see what you're okay with and you're not okay with. And I'm thinking like, when I was growing up, I was not okay with my parents' divorce. I didn't understand it because I was 5, and then started realizing one parent was less there, and then
Yeah.
another parent was more there. But even if the parent that was there, since they were by themselves, and I was number 4 out of 4. So as the youngest, I'm thinking like, well, where's the love for me too? And it was just complicated. There's some things that happened that I've dealt with now as an adult. But as a kid, and now I think about it, I'm like, I did not like this and that. And I don't think I ever fully got off my chest. It's been like small discussions here and there. But as a kid, the parent kind of just says, all right, just suck it up.
Right.
And you can't fully get it all out. And it's hard to remember all this stuff because now you have all this other responsibility as an adult. You can't worry about your kid self. But, sometimes you should just take a pause on your current life, when you're, when it's safe to do so. Not like quit your job and stuff, but, take some time, stop going out, having drinks, go home, and actually write down some stuff before you forget it, and really go over, like, your feelings and whatnot. And then if your parents are still alive and around, you have that conversation. You're an adult now, so it should be easier. And you might cry and have a heart-to-heart, or maybe not, but
Can
at
I tell
least.
you what I did?
Yeah.
At 46, when I did all that work at 46, I grabbed both my parents. My mom came into town. I said, we're going to have dinner, you, me, and my dad, and we're going to sit down and we're going to have a talk. And I set the ground rules. You can't interrupt him. You can't interrupt her. And then who wants to go first? And my parents had we had 3 different stories at that table. What my mom's story about that relationship with my dad was his story about his relationship with her and my story. And they didn't match.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so
That's a big thing.
Right. So at that table, I says, I'm taking responsibility for this relationship, and I'm gonna let go of all 3 stories. Right? But I thanked them because they just wanted me to turn out. But their relationship didn't work out. But they each had a different story of how it ended.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And when they was able to hear that amongst each other, it was clean. But they didn't change. I said, you know what? I'm giving up all 3 because who I'm going to be, I'm not going to be frustrated and upset with you. I'm going to be acknowledgement and gratitude with y'all. No matter how I felt from that day. But you have to remember that commitment that you make to them.
Yeah.
That you can be upset or frustrated and you or at peace. But you have control of those.
Right.
But you said it right. You said it perfectly. Sometimes you got to sit down with your parents, especially while they're alive, and have those talks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With your dad, it's like you've got to, as a man, a woman, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Like you have to. So you can hear when you hear how your father grew up with his father, and how his father grew up, then you're like, well, no wonder.
Yeah.
Like my dad, like, well, no wonder he was like that because my grandfather was a child post-slavery.
Yeah.
So he grew up with a lot of upset and frustration with white people, and he passed that to his children innocently.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But you sometimes have to go back to your history, your grandfather, as far as you can go back, and what was it like growing up, and let them talk, and you'll be like, wow.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
You'll be surprised what they went through, and their experience of themselves, because they're still carrying that themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes all the way back to putting all the chips in when it comes to relationships. Because if I tell you that I'm all in, but I only put half of my chips in, those other chips are going to be manufactured.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then those are going to be, oh, was she really there? Was she really thinking about me? Is she cheating on me? Is she,
Distrust.
Yeah, distrust. Because now your brain is trying to fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just was straight and honest and real from the beginning, then you know what's on the table.
Yeah, but if you, the fear
Yeah.
is as men, if I'm honest, you might not like me. So
Yeah.
then I'm not accepted. I don't, the sense of belonging. We all want to belong at the end of
Yeah.
the day. But if I'm able to tell you my truth about what's really going on and how I feel, you might be like, oh, no, I don't like you.
Yeah.
And then now you got to deal with that. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes we're avoiding, I was avoiding being disappointed, not just in her or you as a friend, male friend as well, but disappointing myself. Like, dang, I messed up again.
Yeah.
Like, I can't pick friends, so I'm just going to be by myself.
Right.
Mm.
Like those are the things that to survive, and that's your brain. That's not you.
Yeah.
That's how your brain is designed, and so understanding child development, understanding brain science, like that gives you insight of your behavior. That's why they say mental health is important. Yeah, mental health classes are definitely important because you get a sense of what is going on, where your thoughts are coming from.
Yeah.
Where do you go for mental health class?
I went to the VA, well, military. So I went to the VA, and I went to there because when my dad passed away, and I had done my personal development courses. Somebody said that the VA offered grievance classes, so I'm like, I'm in because I know I live by principles now, right? I don't live by how Farron feels. I live by principles. So I knew that if the grievance classes had principles that I could learn, I don't want to be 20 years from now, I miss my dad. Like, I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to give you some education so I can get those tools. So when I feel what I feel, I know where to send my thoughts. I know where to send my conscious mind. I know where to send my subconscious. Because now you have those tools in your heart, in your mind. And I added the biblical principles just the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I went full into the Bible, prayer, Bible study, church, all that. I wanted to understand his character, not his works, his ways.
Yeah.
And he teaches his ways. Those are the fruit of the Spirit, right there in the Bible. He teaches you those ways. A lot of people just want his works. Oh, well, God gonna bless me with a new car. He gonna bless me with a house. But we don't take on his nature, his character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important.
So I have are we all, do we all believe in something?
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
everything?
Yeah.
Okay. So today I went to my church that I haven't been in a while because I've been going to a different church, you know. But I was like, I like this pastor, I like it, whatever. So I go there, and he kind of changed it up. But he asked a question, right? And he says, "What did you first expect from God? Like once you start to like believe in Him and stuff, right?" And we had like, he was like, "All right, well, turn to your neighbor, talk it out, discuss it."
Those are fun.
And then he had a segment called Stepping In, where he invited one of the people from the audience to come up, and they did like a one-on-one talk, you know, about the topic. And I want to know from you guys, like, what did you first expect believing in God? Like, what did you expect from God? Because the guy who came up today, he was like, I expected, like, big miracles, like, all of a sudden, you know, my life to change, you know?
Yeah.
And then the guy that I was talking to, he was like, honestly, I was kind of scared. I was like, why? He's like, I didn't know if it would make my life better or worse. I was like, you didn't know if God was going to make your life worse, bro? He's like, well, they say that Christians have a harder life or tend to have a harder life, you know? And then I was kind of like piecing things together because let's say the devil, let's say you're already corrupted, right?
Okay.
The devil's going to be like, hey, leave him alone. I'm here to corrupt the people that are trying to follow God. So therefore, those people's lives are a lot harder because the devil doesn't want you to believe in God. You know, he wants you on his side. If you're already corrupted, bro, you're already mentally, spiritually, and all just sideways, the devil's going to leave you alone. And you're going to think you're going to have a good life. But when you're struggling in life, like that's God's work showing you like, hey, I'm going to put you stuff that you can go through. Like I'm not going to put you in something that you can't, you know, get out of. But B, you know, that's also the devil's trying to get you, you know? But in my personal experience, what I expected first from God, honestly, not much. But when I was praying, the longer I prayed, okay, because they say that your conscience is the authentic voice of God, right? As I was praying, the longer I prayed, bro, he's just like, dude, you'll be fine, dog. Like, relax.
Yeah.
You're taken care of, you know? The less I stressed, you know what I mean? But what do you guys first expected when you were believing in God?
I'll go first.
Go first.
I feel like if I'm last, so I have to like follow up on the lot of wisdom over here.
You good? I'm 53. I'm 52, bro. You good?
All right.
I
So
was 27 one time.
you know, I grew up into it. Both parents, both parents religious. You know, but they're different congregations. You know, Baptist with my mom and Methodist with my dad. And so I was mostly raised Baptist. 'Cause I was baptized and everything. And when you're younger, you don't really think about stuff until you get older. So it wasn't really until my teens that I started thinking about it. And I was seeing social media or entertainment, and there's miracles, like you had said. Oh, all right, as an example, miracles are supposed to happen. It was more like, especially as I became an adult, it was more just good karma gonna come my way if and only if I, help others. And it wasn't like I was expecting like a big miracle. I was expecting like
Like bones, every once in a while.
bonus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I give, but not in equal trade. I have to give more than I receive.
Right.
And I was okay with that because, I know, God is there, but he's not like a puppet master. He's not going to get us to do our own thing. There's still our own 80%, let's say, that we have to give in. And, because he can't control everybody too. Because there's people who don't believe in God, and so they might be in your way. So in order to face those obstacles, people, who are just out to get you or just in your way in general, you have to put in the effort. And so I never really believed that, big miracles would happen, because I was just like, I feel like that's not real belief. You're just using it to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was always okay with that, But, when I was younger, maybe I was like, hey, I'm praying, what's happening? I should be passing these tests or something. But, as you get more mature, emotionally mature, and, more wisdom and more experiences in life, you realize, yes, you still have to put in your own effort. And that makes you a better person altogether anyways.
Yeah.
So it's a give and take, and I guess I got what I wanted in the end, because I didn't expect too much, but I didn't expect, nothing either.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
I,
go.
I mean, for me, I grew up in the church, grandparents, and I was baptized young. I received the Holy Spirit at 16. I used to play Jesus Christ in all the plays at church, but God gave me my own prayer, and I say it before my show. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry like a wife, commit myself to His word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when He comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. And I thought it was a rap song, but I never wrote any other verse. Not until my 40s, a lady at a church told me, that's your own personal prayer.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? And so as I transitioned out of the service, it was all about Him showing me what my gift was. In my mother's womb, I was born with this gift for sickle cell trait. I have that gene. That my military career was not my purpose. That sickle cell trait, that gene that I was born with that took me out of the service, is the gift He gave me in my mother's womb, and that's my voice. So He put me in all the stuff I went through, led me up to why I'm in front of you today, because of what God had for me, and I had to discover that. So that's what I like it, because I'm looking at all the strongholds in my mind. That's what people want. People want power over their circumstances. They want power over their concerns. They want power over their worries. They ain't about trying to go to heaven. People want to know how they're going to live today, dealing with what they're dealing with. And He's given me the ability to listen to the hearts of man. And that's what I'm up to today.
So in church, there's these segments going on and called spiritual gifts. And there's gifts that you give others, whether for your birthday, for Christmas, that are tangible. And then you have spiritual gifts that you do and you give to others and you share with each other, and that's how you get in touch with God. Take it all the way back to the early 2000s when I was in first grade. Okay. My dad had a heart attack and stroke, and he went into a coma for 9 months. And as a child, you're thinking, God, why are you doing this? Exactly. Why can't my dad be good? He's a good guy. Why isn't he healthy? And that's stuff that you ask yourself as a child. And before you start maturing and before you start growing up, why me? Why me? Why me? Why can't things be normal? And so it was learning through spiritual gifts that you don't start going back in tune with yourself until you can give to others.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my spiritual gift is speech, just like my dad. You know, he's a pastor, and I think God has also given me the ability to speak to others like he did to him.
I like that.
And so another one is that we have is discernment. So that's another gift that God has given me. And this is stuff that you pray about. This is stuff that you really have to ask. What has God given me that I can give others to be more in tune with the Spirit, with my spirit that's inside of me? And so it's those two gifts that, you know, that make me me, and that I can go on and in turn give others, and then learn from others' spiritual gifts. So I think, so I think what it comes down to is what's something you're really good at, and what's something that God has given you that you're really good at, and that you can use.
That's good.
You think? Well, everyone has a gift then, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got a spiritual gift.
Everyone.
Yeah. Some people have more than one.
Mm-hmm.
Some people only have one, but they do it really well.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. Well, we only got about a minute and a half left, you guys.
Yeah.
Farron, Solomon, Kyle, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks
might
for
come
having
with
me.
you another
No problem, buddy.
You guys want to throw like one last message out there to the people? And it can be about anything at this point.
Just be willing to do the work. Just listen to your subconscious mind. It's telling you what you're dealing with. Be willing to do the work and look at those things that you are concerned about in your life.
Don't forget to love yourself.
Solomon, there you go.
And it's okay to being single.
For real. Singleness is oneness, and oneness is being experienced as being whole and complete. I wanted to say that too.